Okay, so anyone who's watching now on TikTok, please go over to the YouTube channel. We're now live over there. That's where we're going to be hosting our Zen Teachings Class, this Zen focused event. So please make sure that you hop over to the YouTube Live if you plan to join us this morning. So I see here in the Discord we have a lovely small intimate group. Hello Amanda, Ben, Monifa, Mook, Nino, Usman, Samhain, Suke, and Vex. Glad that you're all here today. And over on YouTube, I can see Orito, Kangawati, Isa, Alex, Angie, Ashley, and Al from Australia. Good morning, good evening, good this moment, this revolution of the earth. Good morning, John and Wicked. And and Michaela G. And Houston joining us. Hi there, Houston. And Usman's here, Ben. Okay. So let's get into this. Let's practice together. So first and foremost, we're going to go ahead and find a comfortable, stable meditation position. Find a stable position for our body. It can be nice to wiggle around a little bit, just to really get comfortable. Hi there, Lauren. So wiggling around the body and taking a few deep breaths. Sometimes when I'm sitting cross-legged, I like to put my hands on my knees and kind of massage that area a little bit. Hey there, Bia. So just really getting settled and comfortable in our bodies at this moment. And it's kind of to think about it as the body as this cup that has something very valuable in it. Maybe a nice hot coffee or some juice that someone offered us, something that's really wonderful and nice. It's important and we want to drink it, we want to be involved with it, but if we're spending our whole lives carrying around that cup, it's really going to be burdensome. It's really going to be problematic. So at this moment, we see the body like that cup that has this really nice kind of important stuff in it, and we want to put the body down. But not put the body down in this normal way of like falling asleep or trying to zone out, but we actually set the body down in this comfortable, simple, stable position. And we begin to become more aware, more present. So setting the body down in a comfortable and stable position, and you kind of put it down in this way where you're aware of the body, but you don't have to hold it up. You don't have to be involved with it. You don't have to worry about it in any sense, because you're putting the body down on this comfortable, stable position. Okay, so we place the body down. Can then take a deep breath or a few deep breaths, and the method of that is breathing in deep and bringing the mind home to the body, really bringing our awareness and our presence home to the body at this moment. And as we do that, as we breathe in deeply, as we bring the mind home to the body is even more fully and firmly kind of placed down, settled into the position that we're in right now. And so it's from this kind of position of the mind coming home to the body that we let the breath find a natural, easy rhythm. So just let the breath happen. Aware of the breath, aware of the experience of the breath happening at this moment. Also aware of the body happening at this moment. Is there tension? Is there tightness? Is there a particular place in the body that stands out to you? Is there something that you notice? And your tool, your way of noticing, just come back to the breath. Breathing and noticing, breathing and being aware. And if you can't notice, if you can't be aware, if you can't even meditate, just sit the body down and breathe. Nothing else to do, nothing to figure out. The whole world collapsing around you, your whole life collapsing around you, and just following the breath, just sitting here breathing. That's the only thing that you need to do. Just following the breath as it flows in and flows out. Now, as we practice this, we're not going to have a magical monk, enlightened kind of mind experience that's going to happen. And we oftentimes set up this idea in meditation that we're supposed to have this really unique and special experience, but in fact, you're not going to have that kind of experience. And there are all kinds of distractions. There are all kinds of thoughts that come up, feelings in the body that come up, feelings of mind that come up. All these things start to come up when we just sit the body down and we begin to breathe and be aware. All these kinds of things happen. It's at that time that we don't try to reject anything, we don't try to control everything, but we kind of come back to taking our primary activity, our primary way of being, of showing up in this world, just sitting the body down, following the breath as it flows in and flows out. Just sitting and breathing. It's said that Buddhism is a practice. Meditation, even more so, is a practice. It's not something that we get. It's not something that we use to get rid of something else. But it's just at this moment to practice, to just like if you go for a walk, it's step by step by step. In the same way, with this practice of meditation, it's at this present moment, just sitting and breathing, being aware of all kinds of things, coming back to just sitting and just breathing. Don't easily give up, but rather easily become more curious about sitting here breathing, about this state. This experience of just sitting here, breathing and being aware. So today we are going to be looking at some Zen stories, and through that, kind of having some experience of Zen teachings in our lives, some Zen inspiration. Um, but I want to start out with it's actually the prologue or the preface for a book that is highly recommended for people who are looking into Zen, and it's in the resources channel in our Discord community. It's a book called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, and I'd just like to read from this kind of introduction, this prologue of the book, and we'll see if anything comes out of that. Maybe some question or some comment that someone here in the Discord has or watching on YouTube has to bring up. But after that, we'll look at a few Zen stories, and that'll be our practice together today. Okay? Sound good for everyone? Hello? Anybody here?
That sounds good. Thank
Okay.
you.
I agree. It also sounds good.
Okay, so we're going to do it. And as we listen to this reading and this whole practice of us spending this time together, stay with your breath, stay with your body, listen from the heart, listen from the breath, listen from the body. And this whole period of time can be just like a meditation practice for each one of us. Quote, "In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert's, there are few. People say that practicing Zen is difficult, but there is a misunderstanding as to why. It is not difficult because it is hard to sit in the cross-legged position or to attain enlightenment. It is difficult because it is hard to keep our mind pure and our practice pure in its fundamental sense. The Zen school developed in many ways after it was established in China, but at the same time it became more and more impure, more and more convoluted. But I do not want to talk about Chinese Zen or the history of Zen. I am interested in helping you keep your practice from becoming impure. In Japan, we have the phrase shoshin, which means beginner's mind. The goal of practice, the goal of our meditation, is always to keep our beginner's mind. Suppose you were to recite the Heart Sutra, or just like a wisdom teaching, only once. So this is very common practice. One of the ways we can practice meditation is to recite like a deep teaching, a wisdom teaching. And sometimes that's chanted, sometimes it's sung. So suppose you recite the Heart Sutra only once, it might be a very good recitation, a very good moment of practice. But what would happen to you if you recited it twice, 3 times, 4 times, or more? You might easily lose your original attitude towards it. The same thing will happen in your other Zen practices or in your meditation practice. For a while, you will keep your beginner's mind. But if you continue to practice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, 50 times, 1, 2, 3 years or more, although you may improve some, you are liable to lose the limitless meaning of original mind, the limitless meaning of the beginner's mind. For Zen students, the most important thing is to not be dualistic. It means to not set up these standards of good and bad, higher and lower, expert and beginner. Our original mind includes everything within itself. It is always rich and sufficient within itself. You should not lose your self-sufficient state of mind. This does not mean a closed mind, but actually an empty mind and a ready mind. This mind of kind of showing up here and now, fresh, like a beginner, new, curious. If your mind is empty, open, it is always ready for anything. It is open to everything. In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, there are few. So we kind of approach meditation like we approach everything in our lives, right? We want to be the best. We want to get good at it. We want to be skillful at it. We want to have those special experiences and, say, oh, I really did deep meditation and it changed my mind and, it changed me in this way, what have you. Instead, try to approach it from this beginner's mind where there are many possibilities for growth, many possibilities for deepening, many possibilities for letting go, for refreshing and restarting. In the expert's mind, there are few possibilities. There are few avenues for growth, for learning more. If you discriminate too much, you limit yourself. So if you get stuck in this picking and choosing mind too much, you limit yourself. I like to think of it like waking up in the morning. I find that if I'm too locked into, I need to do this, that means that I'm locked into, I need to do this, or I don't want to do this. And that actually that way of waking up is that I stop discriminating. I just get up. It's a beginning. I get up. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe I'll get into the shower. I don't need to go and necessarily do meditation. I don't need to go and get coffee. I don't need to go and teach a class. But I also don't need to stay in bed and stay sleeping. So if you discriminate too much, even if it's this so-called good discrimination, this good picking and choosing, you limit yourself, you trap yourself. If you are too demanding or too greedy, your mind is not rich and self-sufficient. So we think that it's through our demanding, it's through our reaching out to control, it's through our greed, right? I'm going to get more and more and more, that we're somehow going to become rich, that we're somehow going to become powerful. But in fact, this is not the case. It is that greediness and that demandingness, that controllingness that keeps us from the richness and the self-sufficiency of what we already have here and now. If we lose our original self-sufficient mind, we will lose all precepts. We'll lose all of those skillful ways of living that we have. And especially as a Buddhist or a meditator, we take precepts, we take certain roles of conduct. Don't kill, don't steal, don't speak harshly, don't speak out of anger, don't lie. When your mind becomes demanding, when you long for something, you will end up violating your own precepts, violating your own kind of code of goodness that exists within yourself. Not to tell lies, not to steal, not to speak harshly, not to kill, not to be immoral, and so forth. But if you keep your original mind, if you can stay with this beginner's mind here at this present moment, the precepts will keep themselves. That skillful way of living will keep itself, will maintain itself. You don't need to put forth effort to control it. In the beginner's mind, there is no thought, I have attained something. This beginner's mind is just like to refresh, to restart, to begin from here. There's no thought of, I have attained something, I've gotten somewhere. It's just the beginning. This life, this moment, this breath, this present moment breathing is a beginning, is the beginning. Okay? We can touch, we can be with this present moment mind, this beginner's mind, just with a single fresh breath. The problem is that we want to get somewhere. We want to be demanding. We want to get something. We want to get rid of something. In this way, we lose our original self-sufficient mind. We lose this original, natural self-sufficiency, this heart of peace that is not dependent on anything outside. But it's a practice. It's not to adopt this belief. It's to practice it. All self-centered thoughts limit our vast mind, and they also limit our capacities to heal and to grow, to refresh, to restart. All of these self-centered thoughts. When we have no thought of achievement, no thought of self, we are true beginners. Then we can really learn something. The beginner's mind is the mind of compassion. When our mind is compassionate, it is boundless. Dogen Zenji, the founder of the Zen tradition in Japan, always emphasized how important it is to resume our boundless original mind, to resume, to come back to return to this boundless original mind, this boundless original heart. It's not that we don't get confused. It's not that we don't encounter difficulty or confusion. But it's that we are willing to resume this boundless mind. We are willing to resume, to step back into this beginner's state, this open mind, this open heart. When we have no thought of achievement, no thought of self, we are true beginners. Then we can really learn something. The beginner's mind is the mind of compassion. When our mind is compassionate, it is boundless. Dogen Zenji, the founder of the Japanese school of Zen, always emphasized how important it is to resume our boundless original mind. Then we are always true to ourselves, in sympathy with all beings, and can actually practice. So the most difficult thing is always to keep your beginner's mind. There is no need to have a deep understanding of Zen. There is no need to have a deep experience of meditation. It's not necessary. Even though you read much Zen stories, you must read each sentence with a fresh mind. You should not say, I know what Zen is, or I have attained deep meditation. This is also the real secret of the arts. This is also the real secret of the arts, of the creative ways of living. Always be a beginner. Be very careful about this point. If you start to practice meditation, Zen meditation, you will begin to appreciate the beginner's mind. It is the secret of Zen practice. So let's see, does anyone have any kind of consideration, anyone here in the Discord or on the YouTube, about some thoughts, some idea about this beginner's mind, this kind of experience, this way of seeing things?
I have something to say about it.
Yeah, Nino, go ahead.
At the very end, you mentioned that it was also applicable to the arts, and I am a artist, and I found that when I need to create something or when I want to create something, just starting the process is the most important step. I often struggle beginning a creative endeavor when I have too many preconceptions about what it's supposed to be. But when I just start and work through the process, that's when I enjoy it the most and also succeed. Thank you.
So how do we bring this beginner's mind into our normal lives? You know, what ways can we kind of incorporate this approach, this way, into our normal way of living? Have to take a shower, have to go and meet some people, have to do something. Just had to repeat because I was muted on YouTube. How do we do that? Anyone have any ideas? Stay grounded while we are doing, okay? It's almost as if we act like we don't know what we are doing. So maybe approaching that, yeah, that makes sense to me, just like approaching that experience as a complete beginner. So you're not an expert. You don't necessarily know about what's going to happen or what's happening. I like that approach a lot, you know. I think I know, I feel like I know, you know, I'm this person, they're that person. Oh, they did this, oh, I did that, etc., etc. But I also enjoy this kind of not knowing and taking any kind of occurrence or situation as this opening of maybe I don't know who I am. Maybe I don't know who these, you know, I'm really beginning at this present moment. I like that approach a lot. Okay, a few words over on the YouTube. Angie says, stay curious, be childlike. I love that. So stay curious in our washing clothes, washing our body, meeting with people, meetings, situations. Be curious, be childlike. Al from Australia says, be aware of breathing. Michelle Walker says, baby, be like a baby. Baby's definitely a beginner, right? I think children can be really good examples of that beginner's mind. That's kind of the mind of learning and growing and developing, right? The mind of neuroplasticity is that beginner's mind. Okay, so we have one question from Katie is Duong. How to get through the feel of sleeping when meditation and not overthinking, even this is just a small thing. I have a lot of struggle with it. And deep compassionate listening as well. Really listening from a place of depth and compassion and care. Just to listen from the heart to someone can be wonderful. And that's really the heart of listening, isn't it? That kind of beginner's quality. We don't know what they're saying. We don't, and the words that people share, if they're really coming from a heartfelt place and a sincere place, it's a lot deeper than we can imagine about those words. We have an immediate reaction, or they say something and now we're waiting to respond. But that sharing is coming from a more embodied place than just our thoughts about it, right? Like, oh, I understand the problem. Now I'm going to answer. Just that deep, compassionate listening can be a way to practice beginner's mind. Sure. As for the question about sleepiness and meditation and overthinking, this is the tough thing to get, is that it's all about consistency. Meditation is all about consistency. It's not about having that special meditation experience, or that, I really get it. Now I can really meditate the right way. It's the refreshing, it's the restarting. Showing up again and again and again to the beginner's mind, to this present moment mind. Anyone else in the Discord have something to share about the beginner's mind?
I guess I was wondering if I have an amazing experience where I've had a meditation session that's been amazing. How do I surrender my ego and let go of that and come back to the beginner's mind? Because I can find myself running off, tripping the light fantastic on some meditation sessions and constantly striving to get back there.
It's just with that beginner's mind, isn't it? It's to come back to that beginning. In the expert's mind, there are few. You put yourself in the position of the expert. I had this special meditation experience.
Mm.
I had this deep meditation experience. But the beginner doesn't have this idea. It's just to show up at this present moment. Not that there's few possibilities, not that there's, I have a bad meditation or I have a good meditation, but this breath, this sitting, this noticing, this curiosity, this open mind, open-mindedness, this curiosity itself. Curiosity isn't looking for something in particular. It's curious, it's interested in kind of what's happening right now, what's arising, right?
Mm.
So getting curious about this present moment experiencing rather than a particular state or a particular idea that could come up, that expert state, that expert experience.
Thank you.
And Angie says over on YouTube, when I think using a beginner's mind, it makes me smile and feel so light and curious. Yeah, it's a very kind of freeing perspective, this beginner's mind. this new experience, this new life, this new breath, this new moment. So I think today we will just read a couple stories, a couple of these Zen stories, and sit for a little bit, then we'll wrap up, okay? So we're going to go now into some Zen stories about the ancient monks, the enlightened people. So listen deeply, and after we get through the story, we'll see if we have any questions or insight or inspiration that comes up, and we'll share that with each other. Last words. Old Lady Osan attained enlightenment while studying with Zen master Tetsuman. Later, when the great master Hakuin came to her province, Osan went to see him. To test the woman, Hakuin asked her about the sound of one hand clapping. Osan promptly uttered a verse. Rather than listen to Hakuin's sound of one hand clapping, clap both hands and do business. When Osan was in her final illness, she was surrounded by her children, who sought some last words from her. She smiled and intoned a verse. In this world, where words do not remain at all, any more than the dew on the leaves, whatever should I say for posterity? And what's posterity? That's future generations, for future generations of people. So a little bit of context so that you have an understanding of certain aspects of this. So old Lady Osan attained enlightenment while studying with a Zen master. And then the great master Hakuin. So Hakuin is this very famous poet, artist from feudal Japan that was really high-level enlightenment. That's the understanding. Famous enlightened master Hakuin. So Hakuin came across this woman and to check about that degree of enlightenment. Because if you say you're enlightened, right, then, well, here's a way to understand it. If I can make you angry, if I can make you confused, then you have neither wisdom nor samadhi. You have neither deep understanding or absorption into peace. You don't have it if I can make you angry. So this practice of kind of testing about enlightenment, checking in, does this person really have a depth of enlightenment or not, right? So this great master, to test the woman, asked her about the sound of one hand clapping, which is like what is the sound of one hand clapping? No, that's not the answer. So it's like this deep questioning, okay? Then you have to come up with an answer that's not based on the intellect, because we use two hands to clap, right? So to test the woman, Hakuin asked her about the sound of one hand clapping, and Osan promptly uttered a verse. Rather than listen to Hakuin's sound of one hand clapping, clap both hands and do business. So probably also pointing here to the fact that Hakuin is a monk, so Hakuin's not involved in business. And Old Lady San's not a monastic, so she would be involved in business life. And then when Osan was in her, so it's a very powerful response. It's a very kind of slicing through response of Hakuin's test and the whole idea of Hakuin's kind of life. So she was saying, you're going to test me. Well, how about this? Rather than listen to you, how about clap both hands and do business? Then when Osan was in her final illness, coming to the end of her life, surrounded by her children, they requested for some final words from her. And she said, "In this world where words do not remain at all, any more than the dew on the leaves, whatever should I say for posterity?" So what could be said? In this world where words do not remain any more solidly, any more permanently than dew on leaves, what could be said? What could be expressed? Any comments, questions?
I have a comment.
Yeah.
I think it is interesting that her response before when she was in her last illness is she responded with a verse, and the verse spoke about the futility of words, but she responded with a verse, which is itself made up of words.
And to that effect, also, Dylan over on YouTube, Dylan said, funnily enough, those words are still here. And that also came up to me, that similar to what you said. Is that Houston, right? Who was just speaking? Is it Houston?
Yes,
Okay.
it was.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting. Anyone else? All right, so we're in for a treat. We'll read one more story together, and we'll spend a few moments sitting, and then I'll have to go a little bit early because some very kind, generous people coming to offer me lunch today to take me out. So I'm going to prepare to meet them. Okay. So, birth and death. This really gets to the heart of the matter of this Zen practice. Birth and death. Goshu came to Zen master Yue Yi and said, "I have been studying Zen for many years, but have not yet succeeded. Please give me some guidance." Yue Yi said, "There is no secret trick to Zen study. It's just a matter of freedom from birth and death." Goshu asked, "How does one pass through birth and death to freedom?" Raising his voice, Yue Yi said, "Your every passing thought is birth and death." At these words, Goshu went into ecstasy, feeling as if he had put down a heavy burden. Let's read it again. Go-Shu came to Zen Master Yue and said, I have been studying Zen for many years, but have not yet succeeded. Please give me some guidance. Yue said, there is no secret trick to Zen study. There's no secret trick to getting it. It's just a matter of freedom from birth and death. Go-Shu asked, how does one pass through birth and death to freedom? Raising his voice, Yue said, your every passing thought is birth and death. At these words, Go-Shu went into ecstasy, feeling as if he had put down a heavy burden. Does anyone here have a burden they need to put down? Is anyone here confused about the meaning of birth and death? What is free from birth and death? What is not bound by arising and passing away of thoughts? A few words over on the YouTube. Angie says, feels like this is about staying in the moment. Start and end are the same? Question mark. Interesting. Al from Australia says, it is a powerful story. Realization becomes a form of freedom. What's there to realize? What are you realizing exactly? John Fouts says, sounds like he got back to the beginner's mind, and it was a tremendous relief. So, we'll end our session here together today with one last reading of this story, and I hope that it will be as kind of inspiring and inviting for you as I find it to be for me at this moment. So this Zen story entitled Birth and Death. Go-Shu came to Zen Master Yue and said, I have been studying Zen for many years, but have not yet succeeded. Please give me some guidance. Yue said, there is no secret trick to Zen study. It is just a matter of freedom from birth and death. Go-Shu asked, how does one pass through birth and death to freedom? Raising his voice, Yue said, "Your every passing thought is birth and death." At these words, Goshu went into ecstasy, feeling as if he had put down a heavy burden. In Buddhism, the traditional Buddhist language, we have this word sadhu, which means excellent, well done. For anyone who has shown up here and participated in this session for even a moment and touched the beginner's mind, touched this present moment breathing and being aware, you can consider that from the Buddhist side of things, you have made merit, you have done good, you have trained the mind, you have touched the truth. So we will finish this session together by chanting the word sadhu 3 times as a kind of bringing up and recognition of the excellence, the wonderfulness of this practice together, and also to give ourselves a pat on the back, appreciation of our goodness. So I invite everyone to bring their hands together with me, and together we will chant the word sadhu 3 times, keeping in mind the meaning of excellent, wonderful, well done, and also to share out, to offer out, to bless out anything that we've gotten from this practice. So bring your hands together and chant along with me as best you can. Sadhu. 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 And we can make 3 deep bows. We bow to this beginner's mind, the community of practice here, and our own sincerity to show up and keep practicing. All right? Thank you all so much for being here. We will have a guided meditation session, a meditation practice this evening at 8 p.m. New York City time, about 10 hours from now. So welcome to join us for that. And until then, be happy, be peaceful, be free from suffering. Really, thank you for showing up and being here and supporting this community. Goodbye.
Thank you.
On YouTube, don't forget to like. And on Facebook, who are you watching me? I want to know about you. And you TikTokers, make sure to go over to YouTube and watch that way, okay? That's the right way to watch. Search for Bante Varapano, my name on TikTok. You'll find the YouTube. YouTubers, don't forget to like. Bye-bye.